esteemed colleagues, and my beautiful audience. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to host today's program on workshop on data for good governance program outline organized by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in association with National Informatics Center, Government of India. Myself Mansi Arora, your MC for today's program. As you all know that we gather here, let's embark on a journey of insightful dialogue and invaluable learning on this workshop. So today we have so vibrant session which enlighten us on the Data for Good Governance workshop. Aim is to exchange, charting the course for leveraging data governance as a categorized for transparency, efficiency and innovations across government and society by bringing together through leaders, policymakers, and practitioners. This workshop basically endeavors to outline actionable strategies and insight that can drive the future of good governance towards realizing the full potential of digital transformation. So today, indeed, a special day, a day when we come together under one banner, setting aside our diverse background to enlighten ourselves with the spirit and a principle. For this welcome address and setting the context, please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Usha Saxena, is a Senior Director at the Open Data Technology Division and Distinguished Scientist with the National Informatics Center, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Let's exchange a warm welcome to Usha Saxena ma'am, a true pioneer in the field of IT and government sector. Please give huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Ms. Mansi. Thank you, everyone. Very good morning, namaste. I think more people are catching up, maybe because today is the last working day of the financial year. Budget, all our expenditure needs to be settled, maybe a little more time, especially the chief data officers are expected anytime. Akhilesh is anyway in touch with them. Setting up the context, I would like to just say that we have been looking forward for this workshop for a long time, more than a month. Many times the dates have changed and all, but finally we are here. In the era defined by technological advancement and digital age, data has emerged as a powerful tool that can revolutionize governance practices, enhance transparency, and empower citizens. India, with a vast population and diverse socio-economic landscape, faces numerous challenges in governance, from ensuring last-mile service delivery to combating corruption and fostering inclusive development. The responsibilities of the government are numerous. However, amongst these challenges lies a beacon of hope: data. The precise data, the timely data. Data in various forms holds the key to unlocking solutions to some of the most pressing issues faced by our nation. Through analysis, collection, utilization of the data, government can gain valuable insights into the needs and preferences of the citizens, thereby enabling evidence-based policy making and targeted interventions. We have made a sincere attempt to bring together thought leaders, policy makers, practitioners here today. Our endeavor would be to outline actionable strategies and insights that can drive the future of data governance towards realizing the full potential of digital transformation. One of the key initiatives of this workshop will be the discussion on the need for the development of a unified data exchange platform designed to facilitate seamless data sharing and collaboration amongst various stakeholders. Importance of centralized data hub for bridging the gap between multiple data sources, promoting interoperability and enabling more comprehensive understanding of multifaceted issue. We all understand that in the government, we have faced many hurdles when it comes to data. For example, leveraging the data, it becomes very difficult when it is fragmented, when it is outdated, lack of robust system management frameworks, and siloed operations. Having managed data.gov.in, we see that so many in-depth analysis and drill-down data is available in respective websites of ministries, schemes, which does not flow into the common portal at that frequency where it should be. So this workshop aims to stimulate a dialogue and collaboration amongst all the stakeholders to unlock the full potential of data in advancing the cause of good governance. Today, let's embark a journey towards more transparent, accountable, and responsive governance powered by data. All the three panels discussions have been very meticulously planned. Speakers have been handpicked by our seniors after a lot of discussions. We have, to the benefit of the audience, I would say that we have three panel discussions. The first is cross-departmental public-private data collaboration, which is all of these are very important in today's scenario. The second one is beyond traditional data sets. And the post-lunch panel discussion we have about data governance in the era of generative AI. Now, we also have planned a small felicitation to all the chief data officers. We have a process of identifying a chief data officer every month based on their contribution of data in the data.gov.in. So there's a small felicitation to all of them for the good work which they have been doing, and we hope they continue to do so. We are sure that each one of you would enjoy being here today, and there would be many takeaways. Let me now formally welcome all the esteemed speakers, distinguished panelists, all the chief data officers from various ministries, departments, states, all the delegates from the industry, officials from MITI, NIC, NICSI, and all my colleagues. Thank you for taking out time and joining us today. Thank you, and a warm welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Usha Saxena, ma'am, for the warm welcome to the honorable audience here. So we now take the opportunity to call our distinguished speaker for the today's workshop, and the theme is Synchronizing Efforts, Cross-Departments, and Public-Private Data Collaborations. For this, we have with us chairperson of this session, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya, sir. I request you, sir, to please kindly come on the dais and take your seat. Sir is the founder and CEO of Zerone and president of the Center for Digital Economy Policy Research. As an e-governance expert and certified independent director with numerous publications and impressive international experience. Let's look forward to the insight he will share with us. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Now we have the panelists of the session for the today. For this, I would like to call upon Shri Asit Kadyan, sir, to please kindly join with the dignitary on the dais. I'm extremely honored to call upon him as an influential figure in telecommunication regulation with the robust tenure at the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India and currently serving as Deputy Director General at the Department of Telecommunication. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Sir is the panelist of this session. We have with us another panelist, Anindya Banerjee. I request you, sir, to please kindly join with the dignitary on the dais. He is a Deputy Director General at the Indian Statistics Services, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India. He has a strong foundation in strategic planning and oversight and project management. We have with us Dr. Pradeep Kumar Suri, sir. I request you, sir, to please kindly join with the dignitaries. He is a distinguished professor and a former head of Delhi School of Management at Delhi Technological University. His career begins in the central government, where he joined as the Indian Statistical Services. Welcome you, sir. We have with us another panelist is Sanjay, sir. I request you, sir, to please kindly join. He is a partner of government technology at KPMG. His career includes leadership position at Tech Mahindra and Wipro, where he had team to achieve operational excellence and revenue growth. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Shri Anish Michel, Head and the Center for Future Mobility at the Ola Mobility Institute, specializing in urban mobility and public policy. Let's look forward to Anish Michel inside his Shaping the Future of Urban Mobility. A very warm welcome to all the dignitaries on the dais. Thank you so much for coming. Now I'm handovering the mic to the chairperson of the session, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya, sir. So he will conduct the panel discussion for the same. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, and a very good morning to all of you. We were having a little conversation with the panel before the panel discussion started. And our point was that this is a question that we have been breaking our head on for last 20, 25 years, since the time we embarked on the path to e-governance, which is how do we enable the cross-departmental public-private data collaborations. It's been a humongous task to enable that. In fact, one of the outcomes of that conversations was actually Aadhaar. How do we ensure that we are talking about the same citizen? How do we ensure that we are not giving double benefits and so on and so forth? In fact, NIC embarked on that process way back in early 1990s. And they put together a form saying, here is how we will identify each of the citizens with first name, last name, address, structure of the address, and so on and so forth. And all these forms went down to various states and came back with all kinds of responses. In South India, it came back saying, we don't have a first name and a last name. We need to have the village name added to it. We need to have this and we need to have that and so on and so forth. And the whole purpose was to integrate data between multiple departments. So from the time that e-governance was initiated in this country, we have been grappling with this challenge. In fact, the brilliance of Aadhaar is the fact that it does away with the name, it does away with the address. All it does is gives you a number and says that this person is this number. And there are multiple other departments who step in and start adding more labels to you. So Ministry of External Affairs steps in and says, this Aadhaar number is this passport holder. Minister of Home Affairs steps in and says, here is your various citizen IDs and so on and so forth. The ration card number then gets attached to you by a different department, and so on and so forth. The Vahan system comes and gives you your vehicle number linked to your Aadhaar. Your driving license department, Sarthi, comes and says, here is your driving license linked to the Aadhaar. So this is actually integration happening between departments. Around 2010, 2011, President Obama of US came to India, and he was a big votary of open data. And rightly so, and there was a lot of promise around open data that once we open up the government data, there'll be a lot of new businesses that will be set up around that open data, very interesting things will happen. And rightly so, the Indian government opened up a lot of data sets, not all, and typically those data sets were in the past, because only when things have happened, you get the data and you open it up. In terms of the outcome, neither in India nor globally did we see any real large startup or innovation coming out of that data. And the reason and rationale typically is because that data is dead on arrival. It is in the past. So you can use it for different analytics purposes, but that's all in the past. And if you don't have data that can be interlinked between multiple data sets, it becomes very challenging. So these are standalone data, they're not getting refreshed. I'll be very happy to be corrected if somebody comes in and says that something spectacular happened out of that open data, and then that something can be replicated across the world. But as we stand today, it seems that has not really taken anything forward. So at my center, which is Center for Digital Economy Policies, Policy Research, we delved into it deeper and said, look, it's not just open data, but what we need is open systems, so that on a continuous basis, we can talk to a live system and are able to create new solutions. And we looked at one single system, which is the Railways CRIS system, on which about 20-25 startups, innovative companies are living off. They got excellent solutions which nobody else can provide. And for example, you can order food while you're in the train, and the next station you will get that, or it will predict with very high accuracy whether your waiting list ticket will get converted into confirmed or not. And that saves time. It leads to less of wasted seats, and therefore it actually leads to the growth of the economy. And we went deeper and we came out with a report based on the research we did, which showed that India's GDP will actually grow by 5% if we are able to open up all our systems across all the departments. Subsequent to our report, Government of Australia picked it up. They did their own research based on a different methodology, and they came out with a similar number, 4.8% growth in Australia if Australia opens up their systems. So clearly there is a significant value add if we are able to open up systems, not just within the government, but to the larger population and to the larger economy. And therefore, as we sit together today, we will be delving deeper with a wonderful set of experts in this area. We'll go deeper into why and how we should be cracking this problem. How is it that countries like Estonia has been able to crack this problem using the X-Road bus that they had put together, and that seems to integrate all their departments? How can we replicate that, or can we replicate that? Because the scenarios are very, 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 very different. So we'll start with yourself, sir. The question I have is, how do you ensure that we are able to do these integrations within departments and are still able to manage the data integrity, the security, and so on around that, the data that is getting shared? Typically also in the context that if we recollect, NatGrid was set up to integrate all data that are coming from various places, and it is still work in progress. So how do you think we can crack this problem?
Okay, I think this is a very pertinent topic, and I have seen this digitization journey in government projects, e-governance projects, and I've been part of it since the last 2 decades. And I have executed many such large e-governance projects. And I can tell you the biggest problem in this kind of projects is data sharing. How to get data from different departments and then integrate that data. Because there is always a concern on the data security and data protection, data privacy issues. Right? And as the digitization happens and all the government departments they collect more and more data, they sit on the data, but the true power can be harnessed when the data is integrated and aggregated, and then only you can derive the valuable insights. But this is actually not happening, and one of the biggest reasons is data security issues and data privacy issues, right? And rightly so. There is huge concern around data security and data privacy. How this data is shared, how this data is stored, right? In the recipient database, right? There are concerns in terms of do they need the entire data actually? Maybe in many cases partial data can help, right? Not the entire data has to be shared. In some cases, it might happen that data aggregation can happen, and after that, aggregated data can be shared, right? So there has to be a global standard in terms of how this data has to be shared, in terms of what data has to be anonymized, what data has to be masked, and when the data is shared, what kind of technology has to be used in data sharing. And after the data is shared, how this data has to be stored in the recipient database, what kind of controls should be in place, right? There are standard controls in place, right? Those kind of controls should be there. And that should be clearly documented, that these are the governance security, data security governance models, right? And of course, another important thing is the data needed after the objective is achieved? Most of the time, data is shared with some defined objective, right? And defined outcome. Once that an objective is achieved, or the outcome is achieved, can this data be actually destroyed, or removed, or disposed of? So, few things. One is how this data has to be shared, that there has to be a standard protocol. Once the data is shared, and the data is stored, what are the protocols to store the data? Data is in rest. What are the security protocols should be used? And when somebody is using this data, what kind of access control should be in place? Who can access the data? Who cannot access the data, right? That there should be a defined standard protocol for that. And once the data is used and the outcome is achieved, how this data has to be disposed of. That should be clearly, taken care of. And that is how we can create the, model of trust across departments.
Right. No, I think that's very interesting. But just coming back to you again, is that what are the liabilities involved? One of the hesitancies of a department is that I'm actually liable for the department that the data that I have. And if I share it with your department, how do I know you're going to treat it the same way as I'm going to treat it? And if you leak it out or mismanage it, then I'm liable. So how do we manage that concern between departments?
Yeah, absolutely. This is another extremely critical point for data sharing, because once the data is shared, and in case data is lost or damaged or data is leaked, then what are the implications of this? I think that understanding, that awareness has to be there across the board. Today in India, I think this is catching up. Earlier it was not there. At least we know that if the data is lost, there are liabilities. There are implications for this, and I am happy that there is a law also in place. That is DPDP Act 2023, that actually clearly defines how and what this has to be done. What are the implications of data loss, right? And if the data is lost, what is the implication for that? And that clearly defines how consent has to be taken from the individual if the data is shared, right? And also it clearly defines what is personal data, what is not non-personal data, how personal data has to be shared, how non-personal data has to be shared, what kind of DSA has to be signed, data sharing agreement has to be signed between the parties when the data is shared, and what are the clear liabilities for data loss. So I'm happy that we are reaching there. There is a law in place, and I'm sure it is going to mature. And also, there should be internal awareness also of those acts, how this this entire thing has to be taken care of.
In fact, now that you mentioned about the consent framework, we were supposed to have Mr. Rajiv Chawla here today. In fact, he was supposed to chair the panel. He's a former IS officer from the Karnataka cadre, and in fact, he's also my senior from IT Kanpur. But he built up, or he led this effort to build up the consent management framework of Government of Karnataka for businesses and for individuals to take up. I'm just waiting when that gets replicated across the country, because then that becomes a trusted system where one can then say, I give consent or I don't give consent. And that becomes an important component of a DPI framework. With that, moving to you, Professor Suri, you have been working deeply in the agricultural market systems. And I'm sure there's been a lot of learnings, because that is a system that actually integrated many other systems in order to create that marketplace. So what are your learnings from a strategic perspective as to what one should be doing to make sure that data can be interchanged between departments?
So, good morning to all. I am from Delhi Technological University, and before joining academics, I served for more than 25 years in government, in Department of Tourism, as an officer of Indian Statistical Service, and later in NIC. While in NIC, as the session chair has just mentioned, I, along with my colleagues like Alka Mishra, we were asked to handle a very complex project. I will talk about that and what kind of challenges it poses today when a huge repository of market information has been created. So this is Agricultural Marketing Information System. As you know, agriculture is a state subject, so it is not under direct control of Central Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. So this project was, the essence of this project was to collect market arrivals and prices figures for various commodities from different markets spread across the country, and develop a system so that this data can be collected and disseminated for the use of various stakeholders. Now, when this project was launched, the whole thrust of the project coordinators was how to sensitize these market personnel, which are autonomous bodies, to share this data for public use. So today, when this system is in place, we have data for more than 2,000 varieties of 300 commodities from almost 3,000 markets, and this is a live project. Now, you see, this data is available on data.gov.in also. But the point is, now the question arises that whether this data is usable for the purpose of analytics. Supposing we want to develop some decision support system in the form of alerts, an alert system for the government, is it usable? We have been grappling with that. In academics, we try to take up projects to use this data, and there are so many issues with respect to authenticity of the data, missing data values, and so on. So this encouraged me to look into this project beyond the technology perspective, and I tried to analyze this project along with my professor at IIT Delhi, Professor Sushil, and we learned, we realized that there are so many non-technological issues in this project which need to be handled to make it of use to the public for the purpose it has been launched. So we realized that there are multiple agencies dealing with market information within the government, within the context of government. For example, Department of Consumer Affairs, Directorate of Economics and Statistics, National Horticulture Board, they are also collecting daily market prices from these markets, and they have their own independent systems. All these 4 organizations, like DMI, whose system is AgMarkNet, about which I talked about, they have their own independent system. There are 4 websites available in public domain. Now, the end user is confused which one to use. So you see, until and unless, like we do in corporate, the theme is that you collaborate with your competitor and win. So here, we proposed a model that the involved departments should build synergetic relationships alongside the value chain, that is data collection, data compilation, data validation, data analysis, and data dissemination. At the moment, this value chain is getting repeated by all these 4 departments, which was taken as a case. And we tried to analyze the inherent weaknesses and strengths of these departments, and we arrived at a proposed conceptual, harmonized, unified market information system, which in a sense says that every department should contribute as per their capabilities. For example, Directorate of Economics and Statistics, they have a large pool of officers from Indian Statistical Service and Indian Economic Service. They can contribute with respect to analyzing this data, trying to convert this market information into market intelligence system. Whereas the owner department who has launched this project, they are weak in the sense that their weakness is that they have strength in building relationships in terms of agriculture marketing with the state governments. But their statistical analysis part is weak because they are not meant for that. That is not their core mandate. So these departments should collaborate, and taking this as an example, I am of a firm view that we need to build synergetic relationships across departments with respect to common themes of data, and the ownership of data should be in place, right? So that is what, in a sense, I wanted to say.
I think that's a very interesting point that you mentioned, that data has to be processed within the government. Otherwise, it's useless. The value of data is only when you analyze it. And for a decade, I've been proposing that the reason that the Indian government could adopt IT is because there was NIC. Initially, there was no understanding within the departments of how IT would help. Fortunately, NIC was there and they could experiment. The challenge with analytics is that you don't know whether a value will come out or not. How do you come out with a tender to hire an analytics company? There will be CAG post that asking for what happened to the money spent, because an analytics may not come out with anything fruitful. So perhaps it's time to consider having a national analytics center in lines of NIC, so that at the cost of 1 rupee, analytics can be done till there is maturity within the entire government system as to how analytics could be procured. I don't know what your view would be, Professor Suri, on that. Can we have something like a National Analytics Center similar to NIC? What NIC did for IT adoption,
Yes.
can we have something else doing the same for analytics?
Yes. You see, NIC has played a big role in terms of infusing IT in government departments. Now, you see, it is actually NIC's divisions are mapped one-to-one with government departments. So wherever, you see, the typical style of developing an information system is that you address the user requirements. The typical user is bothered about the problems which he is facing, right? He tend to not to think in terms of collaborative linkages across departments and look into the future. So when the information system is designed, it is for addressing the need of the hour, not looking into the future. So that is the whole issue. When we try to analyze these systems, these databases with respect to, from the perspective of analytics, then there are so many issues which crop up. So yes, definitely it has to be. In fact, I feel that this is a good initiative that this chief data officers in different departments. So these chief data officers should think beyond the departments, across the departments. And finally, as you are proposing that there should be a national analytics center, they should look into you see, first of all, the whole legacy data which we have available, it is not useless. It has to be used. So first of all, it's a big task to make this data prepared for the purpose of analytics. And for this, concerted efforts are required, so that surely this proposed department or proposed center can surely contribute to this in a long way.
Sure. Moving to you, Shri Banerjee, what I mentioned earlier also was that data is not static, it keeps changing. But that's where open data initiative did not really succeed in that sense. On top of it, there are new databases coming up because government is not static. There are new additions that is happening. In light of that, we still need to integrate them with the rest of the government so that we have the holy grail of whole of government concept, right? So that there is one government. We don't go to a department that says, show me your passport number, because passport number has been given by the government, albeit by another department. So how do you suggest we look into this whole issue of new databases coming up, new integrations to be done? What's the right way to do it, and how is Ministry of Statistics handling it?
Good morning all. Let me just brief you regarding a few of the issues that has come up again with the discussions by the esteemed panelists. In the government setup, we are all governed in terms of our functioning by the allocation of business rules. So whether we are proposing for a new center for data analytics or not, these have to be seen in line with the allocation of business rules assigned to each of the departments and the ministries. So we do not end up with encroaching on other ministries or departments' activities. And neither should we misuse our limited resources in terms of having a duplication of the efforts. Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has been mandated with identifying the data gaps in the economy. They are also largely involved in the capturing the national economy. So national accounts statistics is the product of the ministry. Herein we find that a lot of data that is being collected or aggregated is of secondary data. So there must be somebody who is generating that primary data. Now whether the person who is generating that primary data has an understanding of the end use of that data, whether that is being captured for the purpose for which that is being finally utilized. We have been having a system which is quite robust and performing for the last 50 years or so. But that does not mean in the coming days, whether we can have certain processes in place which takes in the data without having somebody manually intervene and provide that data to us. technologies have evolved manifold. Earlier we were talking in terms of linear growth of technologies, but today it has exploded exponentially. So unless we upgrade ourselves in terms of technological adoption, we will be irrelevant. Now, given this background, data is being generated through a lot of sources. Today we see a lot of IoT data is also being generated. But how do we utilize that? What constitutes data in official parlance? What is usable in the public domain? The data being collected from the households, we can think of it as private data, but how do we utilize that in the anonymized format? We need to address all these issues in terms of the policy structure. Indian Statistical Service personnel are there posted in most of the ministries and departments. They are doing some sort of research and analytics work, but how much augmentation in terms of the technological aspects to supplement their core domain knowledge of statistics is required, that has to be a call taken by the government at the central level. Even now I believe that the databases that we are finding in silos should be unified so that you can make out that this data is being generated from an authentic source and this can be attributed to a particular individual. We need not replicate those databases for each of the purposes. Suppose somebody is taking an agricultural loan. You create a format, you record his identity, you provide him some loan for the purpose. Whether that is being utilized for that purpose for which he has taken that loan is not known. But then again, if somebody becomes a defaulter, then he is marked. But what happens after that? You do not associate that individual against that particular activity. Similarly, somebody is requiring some vaccination program for his or her health issues. So whether that same individual is taking benefit from a separate scheme or not, you do not have, as on date, any means to identify that that is the same individual. If you have the back end of Aadhaar, there you are linking both his activities. In terms of, say, we had a massive experimentation during the COVID period. The CoWIN app, it identified the individual directly from your Aadhaar number. And the parties we are talking of, both the health ministry or the health departments and the individual beneficiary, he is authenticated against a third party, which is the Aadhaar. So this authentication has to be by a third agency, not within the two directly involved individuals, and the database should be isolated in the sense that the individual does not access that database directly, neither does that ministry or government department accesses that, and this data resides in a separate database which will have its own security and other protocols in place. In addition to this public-private partnership of data sharing, what is of essence is we also need to have some quality assurance framework built into the legal frameworks. Like I might be sending, there was some news that one individual got 96 shots of COVID during the COVID vaccine, during the COVID period. How is it that one particular individual gets 96 shots of COVID when you have already identified a database against an Aadhaar and that vaccine was being provided for 2 doses and a booster dose? So these sort of anomalies within the databases, we need to address them also if we are to move ahead from the current scenario of siloed databases. Once that individual has been identified that this individual has taken 1 COVID shot or 2 COVID shots as per the mandate, he should be taken out from the system and he should not be entertained for a 3rd dose. So these sort of data curation efforts, what Professor Suri was suggesting, that we need to prepare the data, that is data curation. This data curation is a humongous task and it is not directly to be done by one individual in a particular department. The data generating process has to take care of that need from the user entry level from where that data is getting digitized at that first level. And for that, only a centralized system can provide you with that architecture, the framework, in compliance to the quality assurance, as also the backing of the legal and policy frameworks. Thank you.
Right. Now, also we need to keep in mind the Supreme Court judgment, and we can't really triangulate data and use Aadhaar to do that triangulation. So we are bound by that. Also on the Aadhaar, on the CoWIN issue, I know firsthand some of the things that happened. Somebody who took the Indian shots was not allowed visa to go to another country. So you had to take the other shot, which was the foreign origin shot. And so initially I had taken the shots based on Aadhaar number, but CoWIN also allows passport number. So second set of shots came in through the passport number. But I think that helped because these were genuine cases, and we need to be flexible. But a quick question to you, Anindya, is that can MoSPI provide the analytics services to the department? Is that a possibility in the current allocation of business rules, or does that need to be modified? And would MoSPI at all be interested?
In fact, we have been grappling with this same issue within the ministry itself, with the consumer price indices databases, the national accounts databases, the household surveys that are being conducted through the National Sample Survey Office. All these are already available. It's a huge volume of data, but again, that analytics part has not been there. There's an emphasis that we need to train up our resource persons for having insights into this data, to look into the aspects, how these could be utilized with other data sets, how these data that has been collected talks with each of the other frameworks. And currently we are on experimentation stage. Nothing has been finalized as of now, but this is definitely a need of the hour. Data.gov.in has given a platform, an ecosystem where you can put in your data, but beyond that, what? So probably your question becomes of relevance if we try to address the second part of the data, where analysis takes the center stage and meaningful insights generated out of the data that has been collected.
Right.
Thank you.
Again reminds me of Shri Rajiv Chawla, who's not sitting with us today. He keeps talking about this story that on top of the Vidhan Sauda in Bangalore, it says government work is God's work. And therefore, government analytics is also God's work. And he mentioned that the employees therefore noted that if it's God's work, let God do it, why are you bothering me? So I guess some of the workload may be off you, and God can do the analytics. Moving to you, sir, Kadyan ji. You have been working deeply in AI and generative AI and the latest technologies. I've got two questions to you on that. Is that how can we use the next generation of technologies that have come in to help in cross-departmental integration? And the other way around, how do we ensure that we got cross-departmental integration so as to feed into the generative AI so that we can provide better, faster solutions to both governments and citizens?
Thank you. Good morning to all. And as we quickly agree that if unified data is available, it has a lot of potential. And we agree that privacy and the security are the prime concerns when we are dealing with this, and that has been reinforced by the panelists. But what is required and what we usually ignore is how the solutions align the incentives and how the technology enables that people willingly participate in this ecosystem. And they race to the top, and they work towards the better and better data ecosystem. Usually, telecom is seen as a dumb pipe and connecting two intelligent endpoints, but that has changed. And now it provides a pervasive intelligence. And it not only connects to the people, it connects to the machines, and it provides the intelligence in a manner that all the concerns, what we are discussing today, can be addressed. So 5G, with the rollout of the 5G technology and the upcoming 6G technology, augmented reality and the virtual realities will be available at the scale. And privacy preserving technologies using edge computing and the federated learning can be enabled in a system that all the concerns are addressed. What we are doing, just I will like to quote that and connect with the question. Department of Telecom has recently launched a new initiative that is a Sangam Digital Twin Initiative, where we are encouraging all the ministries, all the private parties, that they can participate in an ecosystem where we can see the value of this unified data and collective intelligence, and how generative AI and the virtual world will be helping to design a world which is with more optimal solution and provides the real value to all the stakeholders in this chain. And usually we jump that anonymization or aggregation is the solution of the privacy. But when we see that real value, if we want to extract the real value, and we want to use the diffusion models and other models, and sometimes we lose the granularity or the intelligence hidden inside it. So we need to develop a model where we are not focused only on the data. We are also focused on the model. And if data resides with the custodian of the data, and we can extract the intelligence in a manner that those concerns are addressed, that we are coming up with in this initiative, where we are using virtual reality elements, we are using digital twin elements, and we are also using the privacy enhancing technologies to address these concerns. I wanted to say that usually when we design an architecture, we are more relying on the experts. But at the same time, we should enable that people should participate during this design phase. We should put design thinking into practice. So with this initiative, we are also encouraging that public can participate, and generative AI provides you to deal with the vast amount of the data and convert the inputs from the numerous people into a summary and translate that summary onto the digital twin, and that hypothesis or suggestion made by the public can be tested and evaluated using data and AI model, and planners and the designers can consider the potential suggestions while they are making decisions. So when we are, our target, what chairperson mentioned in his opening speech, that it is not open data, it is an open system, and we should be able to connect with the real live systems and make informed decisions. So we should try to realize that, and for that purpose we should not try to, in my opinion, we should not try to make a tightly coupled systems. We should try to make a loosely coupled systems, but they should work in a cohesive manner. How that can be achieved, and how incentives can be aligned. If incentives are aligned, then all the things will get addressed, because people will work to achieve that. And last thing is that we should be able to see the full potential of this unification of the data or the collective intelligence. And that will not just happen by persuading the people. That will happen if we can demonstrate that through some experimentation, that if this is available, this can be achieved. And if this value is created, how this value will be distributed among the people or the participating entities. If we can achieve that, then it will be realized.
Right, thank you. Unfortunately, we are quickly running out of time, so I'll move to Anish. Anish, you have been working with interoperability globally in government systems. There have been X-Roads of Estonia, which was kind of a benchmark. What are the learnings that we can get globally, and what are your observations in interoperability between departments?
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, all. I think here like Sir said, we've set the stage that it's not about open data, it's about open systems. I'll just give a brief about the work that we do and how open data kind of comes and feeds into this whole perspective. I work in the space of mobility and looking at urban mobility policies. Data becomes integral in understanding, given how mobility is revolutionizing and innovations are happening at a very rapid pace. Data is integral to all of this. I think one of the challenges that, one of the projects that we did also highlighted a lot of challenges when it comes to data within the mobility space. We did a project called the Ease of Moving Index, which basically captured and assessed mobility ecosystems across 40 cities. This also delved into looking at where we collected about 31 lakh data points and analyzing mobilities within 40 cities. But what kind of came out of that and understanding this was, even from operators and service providers standpoint, there's always a reluctance in sharing data. And this could stem from data security, privacy, competition for that matter, that kind of hinders data sharing. But again, there comes a point where before the data sharing aspect, we look at how data is collected. Going into the mobility aspects, going from your modern metro transit systems where data is collected, analyzed, and also probably managed real time, but looking at public transport infrastructure and public transport systems, most of the data is not digital. So then how do you collect the data? I think it starts from building that foundation of looking at data from from the grassroots level of collecting it and then disseminating it. I think one of the panelists had also highlighted the final usability. It's not just collecting, but also how it is stored and finally utilized as well. I think this is where taking global examples, where data standards and data protocols and formats are just at its infancy when it comes to the mobility space. This is where two protocols that we have called the General Transit Specification Feed that looks at standardizing formats for data collection in the public transit realm, and also the General Bike Sharing Specification Feed that is more acceptable for service providers to share their data in an open format. Picking on from that, there have been examples within India as well with the Beacon protocol that kind of decentralizes data and provides a platform for data collation and dissemination. Likewise, even we have the ONDC network that kind of decentralizes the data. So we have examples that run across. Another key example that comes to my mind is the Transport for London. The Transport for London has about 80 odd data points that are through a unified API that gives access to about 17,000 odd developers who can then convert that into about 500, 600 odd mobility applications that kind of give an end use to the data that is being shared. And there are some estimates that this open data for TFL, Transport for London, has got into a value chain of about, created a value chain of about 130 million pounds. Globally, when we look at just within the mobility space, we look at how open data can create economic value benefit of somewhere between the $700 to $900 billion range that we're looking at. So potential of open data is very key. I think all the panelists here have stemmed and stressed the fact on the usability and open systems. So I think in paucity of time, I'll stop there and then hand it over to the chair.
No, thank you so much. I think it's been a very, very scintillating discussions, and we got a lot of insights. Usually we would have 2 rounds of discussion, but the first round itself was so deep and insightful that we have completely run out of time. But I'm really thankful to all the co-panelists for sharing their insights. I'm sure the delegates will have a lot of questions, but the panelists will be around, so you can ask those questions post facto, and I'm sure you'll have an interesting discussion. With that, we'll close this panel discussion. I'll hand it over back to the MC.
Thank you so much, eminent dignitaries on the dais, for sharing your immense knowledge with us. Thank you so much. I request all of you to please kindly come in front of the dais for the group photograph. And thank you so much, honorable dignitaries on the dais. Now it's time for felicitation also for our honorable dignitaries on the dais with Madhubani art, also known as Mithila art, is a traditional art form from Bihar noted for its use of local plants for colors, cow dung to treat the paper, and bamboo stick that serve as a brushes, not to mention the beauty and simplicity of painting themselves. To represent the felicitation art dignitaries on the dais, I would like to call upon Ms. Ritu Ghai ma'am to please kindly felicitate the honorable chairman of the session, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya ji. To Shri Asit sir. I once again request you, ma'am, to please kindly felicitate Shri Anindya Banerjee, sir. Dr. Pradeep Kumar Suri, sir. Shri Sanjay sir. And Shri Anish Michelle, sir. Please. Only 2 questions, sir, please. Thank you so much, honorable dignitaries on the dais. Please, sir, take 2 questions from the audience. Thank you so much.
Yes, any questions?
Please raise your hand even if you have any question.
Yeah, the gentleman there. Can somebody give a microphone?
Thank you, sir. My question is regarding data ownership. Now, is there any policy around, because it's a very complex topic and a lot of agencies claim that the data is owned by the owner or by the collector or the fiduciary. So the question is like, is there any policy around data ownership and data transfer of that ownership from one recipient to the other? Thank you.
Would you like to take that, Mr. Suri?
In policy for this, for data ownership, I think the general philosophy is, whosoever is collecting the data, that person or that organization is responsible for the data authenticity, data quality, and the data, security around it. So as of now, I don't think there is any standard policy for ownership in place.
Any other questions? No? Okay, I think we can then close the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, honorable dignitaries.